Well, good morning. Welcome to this webinar, this Forever Living webinar. I'm delighted to be hosting it this morning. Obviously, I've just started it. We're still 1 minute ahead of schedule, just to allow people to join us. So I'm not actually going to start the webinar for maybe a couple of minutes yet, just to give people a chance to come on board. I can see already, though, that we have over 100 participants, which is great. It's always great to know that you're, when you're speaking on one of these things, that you're not just alone in a room talking to yourself, that there are people actually engaged and listening. So good morning to you. Welcome to this webinar. I'll be starting in a couple of minutes. I've got a tiny little bit of hay fever this morning, which I very rarely get, so I don't know what's brought that on, but if I'm coughing and spluttering, I'm sure you'll understand, and forgive me for it. I do hope you will. Those of you that are friends with me on Facebook or just follow me on Facebook will have seen that it's been exciting in the garden this last few days. We've got loads of nests in the garden, and yesterday I took some photographs of some wrens in their nests, which I posted, which I was really pleased about, and I took some video as well, which I'll post later. They're trying to fledge. I think they're going to fledge today. So not that you are necessarily particularly interested in that, it's just that we need to know that everybody's getting on board, people are joining now. I don't really want to start too much on schedule, because what happens, people tend to click the link at 11 o'clock. That takes them into the waiting room, and then they need to come through the process, or other people register just at the point. So I can see numbers are still going up at the moment. So we're still only at 11:01. So I will make sure that I start maybe 2 minutes. So Brian, good morning. That was very kind of you, Brian, to put the post that you did on the area website. It was a very nice thing for you to say, and I'm glad to see you on it. I'm glad you've got people on it. Hello, Isabel. Hello, Margaret. Great to have you on the call. And I'm sure now that I'm going to get loads of people saying hello, so I'm going to turn that window off. There is a, well, hello, Sheila, raising your hand to say hello. Great to have so many people on the call. We've got over a couple of hundred people on the call now. It's a couple of minutes past 11, so I'm going to make a start by explaining really what the context of this webinar is. I've got a whole bunch of slides and a whole bunch of scripts to share with you about how to have conversations, whether it's online or on the telephone or in whatever channel we use, whatever medium we use. And I'm going to go through that. I'm also going to share some of the psychology behind having a conversation, how to make sure it's comfortable for you and comfortable for the person that you are talking to. How also, if they are a potential prospect, how to get them to identify as a prospect and not feel that you're pushing them into that path. It's important that you don't feel like that, and it's important they don't feel like that, and we'll be covering that kind of thing. One of the reasons for having this webinar, I think, is that, well, this is unprecedented times. You don't need me to point that out to you. It's unprecedented times in a number of ways. Obviously, socially, some people are having a really hard time financially, and others, like us, have got a huge opportunity. And one of the challenges of reaching out to people, I think, in these circumstances, when we know we've got a brilliant opportunity, and I don't know about your business, but my business has grown significantly during this pandemic crisis, and it's just become so much more comfortable, and doing everything from home is a joy to do. So the business has been seamless in many ways in the way that it's moved forward, and we have this opportunity for people, and there are going to be hundreds of thousands, millions of people who need this kind of opportunity, either as an extra income opportunity to help make ends meet, or as a, look, I don't want to go back to the life that I had before opportunity, I need to make some changes. And the challenge is we don't want to feel like we're gloating about how well we're doing when other people are doing badly, when it's exactly the people who are doing badly who want our opportunity. So we've got this dilemma, this paradox. And what I want to do during this webinar is give you some pointers on how we can approach people who are having a less good time than we are, and help them. And the approach that we have will feel good to them and good to you. So I'm going to share my screen. So you just got to bear with me for one moment while I do this. Share screen. Okay, Sam, if you're listening to this, it says I'm now an attendee, so I can't share my screen. So you need to make me a panelist again, which I rather hope you will have done now. You have, well done, thank you. So I'm going to share my desktop. Okay, so hopefully you can now see my slides. How to master the art of conversation. So what I'm going to talk about conversation, and I'm going to talk about how what we say and how we respond. But I want you to just bear in mind that there are a variety of different ways that we can have conversations these days. From Messenger, which is probably the most popular way of communicating directly with people, WhatsApp, which is almost equally popular, SMS, text messaging, or the good old-fashioned phone. We can have video calls, we can have face-to-face under normal circumstances. Obviously now we can have far fewer face-to-face meetings, even if we're social distancing, because we're just not going to get about much. The point about this is that there are advantages and disadvantages to all of these. And I want to explain why there are advantages and understand some of the psychology behind it so that you can make good choices. So it's easier to start a conversation on Messenger or WhatsApp or text. But it's not very effective to continue having an in-depth conversation using these. We need to be able to speak to each other, hear each other's voice. And because we hear a lot of the emotional response, the emotional understanding when we do that with people. So it's just important, even if we start in Messenger or WhatsApp or SMS, to know that at some stage, if it's going to develop into a prospecting conversation, that we will need to move to either a phone or a video call. And I'm going to explain why that is. There was some studies done, years ago, in the 50s, about how much people remembered from a conversation and how much the material was recalled if you follow a speaker or something like that. And if they found that 7% of the impact of a conversation came from words. So if it was just words only, which it is in text and SMS and WhatsApp, then they're only going to take in 7%. Their attention is going to be limited because they're only taking in 7%. If they have the voice as well, then there's an additional 38%. So it grew to 45% attention in that. And this is because of the voice tone. It just keeps people engaged more. But if they could see you as well, body movements, the facial expressions, hand movements, then an additional 55%. So in order to get 100% engagement with your person, they need to be able to see your face. And that doesn't happen through text messages. They need to be able to hear your voice. That doesn't happen through text messages. So Although I'm not suggesting you initiate conversations on Zoom or Skype or Facebook Messenger video call, I want you to be aware that at some stage you're going to need to say, if they're looking like a prospect, we're going to say, I need to jump on a call. Let's jump on a call and I'll show you what it's all about. The trouble with sending text-based messages is that there can be a huge difference between with what you meant to say and what you actually said, or what they think you said, or what they actually heard, what they think you meant. I don't know if you've ever had an email or something late at night or a text message and misinterpreted it and got angry only to discover that's not what they meant in the first place. Or even worse, you've sent one and somebody's totally misunderstood it. So the thing is that it doesn't matter how clumsy we are with our voices, with our words, if they can hear our voice. And it doesn't matter really if we're a bit clumsy with getting the wrong words out, as I just did then, if they can see our face. Because the person that we're talking to will interpret our intention from our tone of voice. And so if we stumble a little bit, it doesn't matter. But if we stumble using text-based, it's all there is. So how do we start a conversation with somebody, whether it be on Messenger or on the phone or anything, face-to-face, back in real life, anything? Well, we ask a question about something that we've got in common. And it could be the weather. That's quite a typical English thing to do, British thing to do, is to start a conversation with a comment or a question about the weather. Lovely day today, isn't it? And the reason is because that's what you've got in common, the weather. You're both living in that environment. So this is the best way to start a conversation. But in this current situation, we have a great way because we are all in the same situation. So the question I would say, start a conversation with is, how are you getting on in the current situation? That's it. Or something like, hi John, how are you doing? Hope all's okay for you with the current situation. So it doesn't matter how frequent it is, how long ago it was that you spoke to somebody, as long as you've got something to say that you've got in common, so you're on common ground, so you're beginning conversation as equals. That's important to people for them to feel comfortable. So once they respond to you, and it doesn't really matter whatever they say, what we're going to do is ask them some questions about this, the follow-on questions. We're going to give them the spotlight. And asking questions and listening attentively to the answers is a really important skill, because it's important that the person we're talking to feels that we are honoring them by giving them space, giving them a little bit of time. This is all unconscious that they are recognizing this, but they will enjoy the conversation with us more if we are showing them this kind of respect. So you do not have to try to be interesting. Excuse me. You do not have to think of things to say. You just need to have a few questions, and I'm going to share the structure of what I do with you over the next few minutes. Just ask questions that flow normally, let them do the talking. If you are interested, they will find it interesting. So the most important thing is not that you try to be interesting, but you try to be interested. And if you do that, they'll feel comfortable, they'll open up, and the answers that they give may lead you to a hot button. They may not lead you to a hot button, but they may lead you to a pleasant conversation, one that the person that you're talking to has enjoyed. And so you can always go back later. It doesn't matter whether you've got a hot button. I just know that a certain proportion of the people that you have these conversations with, you will get a hot button. So these are the system I use, the structure I use. It's called FORM. You've probably heard me talk about it many, many times. And FORM is an acronym. It stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, then Message. And those first three letters, FOR, just prompt me to remember to ask how the family is, or how particular members of the family are, if I know the family. How's John getting on? Is he back at school yet? You know, any of those kind of questions. And then occupation. Well, under the current circumstances, when they've talked about family, you can say, is it affecting your work? You know, we don't know. They could be on furlough, or they could be doing fine. We just don't know. We ask, we get them, give them a chance to talk about it. If you don't know somebody very well, by the way, you can reverse the order of those first two things. So you can ask them about their work situation first, and then ask them about the family. Do you know, have you got kids? Are you homeschooling? These kind of questions. And the R stands for recreation. Now that would be their normal hobby. So if one of their hobbies golf, for example, you could ask them if they've started playing golf again now that they're allowed to, or if they are planning to, or if they're managing to get any exercise or anything like that. See what they say. And at the very least, you're having a pleasant conversation with somebody who's going to enjoy it, and you're going to enjoy it. This could be all on Messenger, by the way. Or you could have said, if they're the kind of person who likes speaking face-to-face, you could have a Zoom call or a Facebook Messenger video call. And if they've given you some reason that you think our business could help them, so it might be that, you know, they're looking for extra income, or they want to make a change afterwards because they've quite enjoyed having the time at home. So we've found a hot button from them, and we need to press it. And it's really simple. I think I might be able to help you with that. This could be on Messenger, or it could be on a video call. I think I might be able to help you with that. And if you need to refer to it then. I'd love to show you what we do. So it's really important at this stage not to actually dive into a presentation until they've asked to move on to the next stage. I'd love to show you what we do, and if they respond by saying something, oh, I don't think I could do it, so I don't know if it's for you, obviously only you can decide that, but I'm sure it could help you with the thing that they need help with. Now, as we are moving through this conversation, the more in depth it gets, the more important the channel is. So at this stage, at the very latest, it's important to move from text to voice or video. So that is, it could be a WhatsApp call, or a Facebook Messenger call, or a telephone call, or a even better video call, WhatsApp, Facebook, or a Zoom call. My advice is, if you're talking on Facebook Messenger already, have a Facebook Messenger video call. If you're talking on WhatsApp already, have a WhatsApp video call. If you've got to have Zoom, then fine, go to Zoom, or Skype, or whatever it is you use. Any of those things are fine. But if you're already in Messenger, it's really quick to do a video call. The important thing is to know that we are engaging with them with all of our communication tools, which is the tone of voice, the face, our expressions, as well as the words that we're using. And also, it's just a lot easier to talk to people than it is to constantly type messages and worry about spelling and all that kind of stuff. If they ask you, what is it? This is how I handle what is it? And you might want to do a screen grab of this. I will post these, by the way, so that you've got the scripts. What is it? The company's called Forever. Have you heard of them? Listen to what they say. They might have heard of us. I find about 80% of people haven't heard of us still. 20% of people say they have. About half of those, when you say, what do you know about it? They don't know anything. They just said yes, so that they thought it was the answer you wanted. Obviously, if these people know you already, then they will have heard about it because they'll know that you do it, and that's okay too. Company's called Forever. You've obviously heard I do that, haven't you? If you know them. So yeah, no, whatever they say. So they're an unusual company in that they don't have employees, they have partners, which means that you can choose your own hours, work from wherever you like, even set your own level of income. These are the benefits. There's 3 bullet points there, but I've done it as a little sentence. They are the 3 benefits to the person you're talking to. And then we can say, which is why I believe it'd be able to help you with whatever it is they need help with. And then we're going to talk about briefly 3 features of the company, just to give it a bit of status. It's really important to differentiate between benefits and features. Features are about the company, the benefits are about what's in it for them. So they're in the health and wellbeing market, 40-year-old multi-million-pound global company. We could hop on a quick video call and I can show you what it's all about. And at that time, you schedule a call and you do a one-to-one. And my advice is to, if you haven't done a one-to-one before, make sure you see the webinar the brilliant webinar that Diana and Adam did with the new one-to-one, which is just a dream to use, especially online. In fact, I've never done a live one because it came out and I was doing everything online after that. So I'm sure it's fine face-to-face too, but I think it's going to be a while before we're doing face-to-face one-to-ones. So here's a tricky question. Can you send me some information at this stage? So you can say, look, it'd be better if we got on a video call, but it's really important not to get into an argument because you've got 2 choices: argue with them, and I found arguing with prospects never works, or you can send them something. So I say, sure. And I send them the 4-minute, it's actually 5-minute video link, 4 minutes, 50 seconds or something like that, with a little message. This will give you a quick overview. It's less than 5 minutes long, but it's packed with information. If you can watch it straight away, we can jump on a video call and I can answer any of your questions. So you send them the link, it's 5 minutes long. 10 minutes later, you message them, say, have you had a chance to watch it? If you haven't, tell me. I don't want to pester you. Tell me when you will watch it and I'll get back to you then. And then we need to make sure we follow up. Don't expect them to get back to you. Some will, but don't expect it. It's just important that you follow up. Now, during the forming conversation, if they ask how you're getting on, you know, you've asked them how they're getting on in the crisis. And if they are nice, polite people, they'll ask you, but they'll tell you a little bit, and then they'll ask you back how you're getting on. Interestingly, most people don't do this, but some do because they're nice, polite people. And this is a tricky moment because we can feel it's tricky because we don't want to say, after they've said how crap their life is, how fantastic our life is, because it's just a bit awkward. So here's how I've come round to doing this. So, well, it's been difficult with, and then say some of the things that have made it difficult. So what we're doing there is creating a feeling of empathy. We're on the same playing field as them. Been difficult with us, but happily the Forever business is going from strength to strength. Everything is working brilliant online. Then, in fact, we're recruiting. So if you know of anyone who's looking for an extra income or an online business, can you let them know about me? And then this is the important thing, get straight back asking a forming question, you know, kids, family, recreation, are you playing golf yet? You know, any of those kind of things, because we don't want to leave it hanging where you've made that request. It just needs to feel like it's an incidental thing. Because if it's incidental and you move on and they couldn't think of anybody, they'll forget it. Whereas if it was an important thing, they'll come back to it and they'll prompt you. So the key thing is to remember just to get in something first that you have found tricky about it. I don't know what it could be. You know, we're all different. For me, it's all my travel plans, which compared to so many people, it seems like not a great sacrifice. So, you know, my personal circumstances are that, you know, we were going to go to Australia. I was going to be diving on the Barrier Reef. We're supposed to be in the Lake District, you know, all this kind of stuff. But none of that matters, but I would mention it. I've also lost members of my family and an old friend through COVID, but I don't think I would mention that under these circumstances. The purpose is not to bare our heart, but to create a little bit of empathy. So let's talk a little bit about having a video call, because this is something that I see a lot. Do you remember the slide with the pie chart a little while ago? 55% of the effectiveness of communication came from the face and body language. And yet I see so many people on video calls where there's a bright light somewhere behind them and you can't see their face. That is a big, big mistake, because you need them to see what's going on in your face, because as human beings, we've evolved to interpret somebody's intention from what's happening in the muscles on their face. That's how we can tell if people are lying or shady. It's just these little muscles. In fact, it's the muscles between our eyes, just above our eyes, and just below our lips. And all of these muscles, of which we have more than any other animal, these facial muscles, they've all developed in order to communicate these things, because we are social animals. And we have developed instinctively to be able to read people's intentions through their facial expression. I could spend a lot of time talking about this and how a lot of work has been done on this over time, but for the time being, let's just recognize that the face is such an important part of communication, more important in many ways than the words that we are using. People say you can't say the wrong thing to the right prospect, and that's true as long as you say it in the right way with the right intention. The other thing is have your camera raised. If you're doing it on your phone, don't have it on your lap, because that is a very unflattering view. Or an iPad. Prop it up on something. Get some books, prop it up, get the camera at eye level or almost at eye level. Make sure you smile. Remember, they can see you. So put a comb through your hair before you start. Smile. Be attentive with them. One of the big problems of doing video calls is notifications come up all the time, and it's really tempting just to answer that. Well, if you look away, if I just even while you're talking, I just start to go, and then you see my thumbs going and I'm answering a message, I'm not being attentive. How does that make you feel? Be very cautious of that. You can kill a prospecting conversation stone dead by not being 100% attentive on your prospect in this moment. Try to reduce background noise, other distractions. In my office here, just before we started, I had a fly flying around, and you have no idea how loud a fly sounds when it's flying until you're about to start a video call like this. So I'm not saying that would be a normal thing, but any other background noise, shut the door, make sure the radio's off, make sure the TV's off, these kind of things. And as I was saying in the be attentive bullet point, be present with your person. In this moment, they are the most important person that you are engaged with. So no multitasking, no trying to do other things. Make sure that you're engaged with them. So here are a couple of quotations. The greatest compliment ever paid to me was when one asked me what I thought and attended my answer. It's obviously 19th century language, because Henry Thoreau was that kind of person. He lived at that time. Most people don't listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply. This is Stephen Covey. If you've never read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I would strongly recommend that you read that. It's one of the most important books on how to communicate and how to get on people ever written. So this is why I use forming, because it means that because I know in the back of my mind what kind of thing I'm going to be saying next, because it's going to be in the form structure. I don't need to think about what I'm going to say next. I can think about what they're saying and how I can respond to that and how I can respond in an empathetic way. Alan Pease talks about non-verbal encouragers. And on a video call, it's just nodding, but nodding with a smile, not trying to nod while you're doing your text messaging. Nodding, nice smile. Comment, just little noises like that. They're straight from Alan Pease and incredibly effective. We can use them on the phone as well, but we can't do those kind of things on text-based messages, which is another reason that we need to move it on. Here are some lessons that I learned via Sharon Bott, in fact, from deaf people. So when deaf people are communicating, they maintain eye contact all the time. They stay present, they focus, they have to. Don't interrupt. Don't finish other people's sentences. One thing that irritates, in my experience, a deaf person more than anything is where you try and finish their sentence because you're getting impatient. That's not a very nice way to be with people. So let's not do it with other people too. We need to be direct in our communication, clear and straightforward. And if you don't understand what somebody's saying, just ask. So ignore, remove distractions, and be prepared to be expressive with your face. And practice it. It's important. And learn to notice the small things about them. Learn to notice the little, gamblers call them tells. It's just a tiny little increase in somebody's, the wrinkle in somebody's eye when they wince slightly about something. Learn to notice this, learn to observe people, and do that by concentrating harder on the person that you are speaking to. Okay, I've covered quite a lot of ground there. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it of value. The key thing is that we are contacting people. You've got all these people on your list, and if you're not contacting them, you are missing the opportunity of a lifetime. People who are making contact are sponsoring right, left and center. Sponsoring has been up massively since this coronavirus started in the business. And it's important to jump on the wagon and keep on going. Now, what time is it? We've got plenty of time left. So I'm going to answer some questions. Right, good point, Siobhan. Siobhan Dunn asks, what's the 5-minute video link? Okay, if you go on to Forever Knowledge, the free section, you don't have to be a subscriber for Forever Knowledge. It's the Forever official 5-minute video. Look at it and you'll be able to go and check out on Forever Knowledge and look at the video, and then you'll know what you're sending on. It's just, it's hosted on Vimeo, and you share a Vimeo link with them. So I'm going to, Hardika, glad you liked it. Glad you liked it. Well, Amanda Hilliard, I'm delighted you're on. Great to have you on the call. Okay, let's see what we're doing. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to ask. Great that so many of you are enjoying it, and thank you. Forgive me, I'm scrolling through the questions. Okay, I've got a really, really good question here. I've got two. Let me answer Lorraine Gannon. What's the book called? I mentioned it again. It's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. There is an abridged version on CD, which you can get from Knowledge is King. So the video, by the way, is on Forever Knowledge. I don't know if I said, I'm sure I said Forever Knowledge before. The video is on Forever Knowledge, but Knowledge is King is where we buy our books from. And they have a CD of the book. The book is quite a thick one. I've got one up there, but it's, you know, 1.5 inches thick. And for me, I think the thinner the book, the more likely you are to read it. But even more so, if it's on a CD, the more likely you are to listen to it. So I would get the CD and put it on your phone. Let me have, I'm just going to, Right, Rebecca Piggott. You say, I keep getting told that our products are too expensive. What should I say? I think that that is not about the products. It's about the way that you are approaching people. So I want to ask you today to stop selling, start solving. So find somebody with a problem that needs solving and show them how our products can help to solve that. So one of the big issues at the moment is COVID-obesity. I don't know if you've come across that, but so many people seem to have put a few pounds on. I have. It's a big issue. So find people who want to lose weight and engage with them and share information about the products. I think that people often say, when they say products are too expensive, they are speaking in code. And the reason they are speaking in code is because they feel they are being sold to. And it's important that somebody doesn't feel sold to. It's more important that they are being helped and that you're promoting the products and sharing information. People, you know, that our products are not cheap products. So if people can't afford them, that's fine. You know, I drive a Porsche and there are loads of people who can't afford a Porsche, but there are plenty of people who do. And prior to that, I had a Mercedes, and there are plenty of people who can't afford a Mercedes, but plenty of people who do. And prior to that was a BMW. And it's the same story. So, you know, there are loads of these around. There are plenty of people who can focus on the people who can, but make sure that they're not speaking in code. And that's about how we make the approach. So stop selling, start solving. Wendy asks what the form and meanings are: family, occupation, recreation, and message. And the message is, you know, you said this was a challenge. I think I can help you with that. Okay, Hardika asks an interesting question. Would you ever say to somebody, this is how much you need to retail in a year to access this benefits? It depends at what stage you are in the process. During the one-to-one, yes. Before the one-to-one, no. It's important that they want to find out more before you start giving them details. Otherwise, it just feels that you are selling to them. And what we need to do is have them, from a psychological standpoint, that we are helping them to discover an opportunity. Okay, Shakti says a very valid question. How do I adapt this opportunity for approaching my friend who's totally deaf and does text only, no verbal communication unless face to face? Well, two things. One is you're going to have to do a one-to-one, and you're going to have to do it on a video call, and that is effectively face-to-face. But obviously, you will introduce that on the text-based messenger, just like you would with anybody else. We're doing a one-to-one, you're sharing slides, which you've got information on, and you've got your face as well, so you can communicate in that way. I know it's challenging, but it's totally possible. There are many, many deaf people making a success of our business. Okay, hi Andy, how do you deal with someone who's ignored a first message? When's the right time to send them a second message? I don't know. You know, it's one of the dilemmas. Definitely not within, 12 minutes. Probably not the next day. I would be going through my list. I don't know how many friends you've got, 100 friends, 200, 300, I don't know. How long is it going to take you to go through the message? So I would be going through my list and then going back to the people who didn't get back to you. It could be that they're rude. It could be that they've got so much on their plate they just couldn't engage. You imagine if somebody's at home with 3 kids homeschooling in a flat and they get a message, how are you doing? And they just think, I can't take this. So, don't judge somebody. Don't think they're being personal. Just get back when it's a better time. Okay, Vida, I hope that I've pronounced your name right. I mentioned another seminar by Adam and Diana. Adam May and Diana Page about how to have a one-to-one. You'll find all those on Forever Knowledge. Is it possible to share a video of a one-to-one? Okay, no. A one-to-one is not just about them. A one-to-one is having them engage with what they want out of the opportunity. So in a one-to-one, we are packaging what Forever offers into the kind of opportunity that's going to change their life. That's a personal, bespoke process. And that's why a one-to-one has to be a personal thing. We've tried this in the past when videos first came out through the internet, and it just does not work effectively. In fact, it's about 10 times less effective as doing a personal one-to-one. Christina, any new books coming from me? Do you know, I've hardly had time to do anything, although I have got something that is on the back burner at the moment. And hopefully I'll be able to put some time to that, but probably not until the winter, because I love the outdoor life, and here I've got so much going on. I don't know if you saw the pictures of the fledgling wrens, which are just outside my office window, in fact, on my personal group, but I've been spending a lot of time doing that out in nature, in the garden. Right, let's have a look here. If a prospect says after I'm not interested, how can you respond and keep in touch with them? That's fine. They go in your not for now book. Do you keep a not for now book? I was just looking for mine, which is not here actually next to me. But I just jot the name down when I spoke to them. They're not for now because circumstances change. And you're not, if they say no, it's not for them. You take it as a no, not for now. And you say, that's fine. If you think of anybody, let them know about me. And then you change the subject. And a great way of changing the subject is, what are you doing with the rest of the day? And then that moves it on from prospecting. You need to just create the impression that that's fine. You don't really, it's sort of no consequence. You offered it and it's not for them, and that's fine. And then you keep in touch in the way that you normally would. But I would say, you need to be leaving it 3 months before you go back to somebody who's actually said no, that they're not interested. How are some other ways that people say no without actually saying no? That is a very good question. And you may have come across my CD. And on this CD, there are 3 tracks, reasons people say no, and how they say it. And since the beginning of the COVID crisis, I put this CD online for free, and you can find it on a link to it on my page. So it's called Andy Waring Voicemails and Podcasts. Find that page and you find a link to that. Or if you do Apple Podcasts, it's on there, or Spotify, it's on there. Just search for it. And on the podcasts, it looks like a podcast, but it's just each track is one of the recordings from the CD. So Leslie, I hope that answered that question. Okay, you have a pleasant conversation with somebody, but when it comes to forever, they don't even come back to you. How do you handle this situation? I don't know what you mean by when it comes to forever. How far down had you gone? If you started pitching them on Messenger, then that's the mistake. And that's why, because it's really easy to ignore people on Messenger. But if they don't come back to you, don't worry about it. Plenty more fish in the sea. I always think about if you've got a teenage son and he's just fallen in love for the very first time and with somebody, and he asks her out and she says no. And what's your advice to your teenage son? Is your advice, I know it's hard, son, but you'll get over it and there are plenty more fish in the sea? Or option two is your advice. What you need to do is stalk her, message her every day, ask her why she's not prepared to go out with you. Do you think that would be rational advice? Obviously not. In real life, we know that definitely wouldn't be the right thing to do. And yet, in our business, that's how we sometimes behave. So bear that in mind, that real life rules apply in our business too. I definitely wouldn't, Marcel, what I've just explained in the whole of this webinar is what I would do. I wouldn't do it any other way. I wouldn't be stalking people in job search sites and say that you know about a job. I would be making contact with people, engaging with people. If people don't answer your messages, should I leave them or come back to them after some time? If so, what's the best time frame? I think I've answered that, and I really don't know. Whatever feels right. Okay, this is a great question. Beth Dermody, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce your surname. I'm a single mum, and say I was in a video call and a child woke up, came in and was crying. How could I deal with that while on the video call? Obviously, I know how to deal with a crying child. I'm delighted to hear that. But obviously on a call with a prospect, I think this is a great opportunity, because the people you're going to be engaging with, by and large, are going to be people who empathize and identify with your situation, and they'll completely understand. So deal with the child's needs, sit them on your lap, have them engage for a minute. It's absolutely fine. What makes our business more powerful is when one human being sees that they're engaging with another human being. And so don't worry about it. Don't be embarrassed about it. And definitely don't do, I don't know if you saw that guy on a Zoom call before all this crisis, but it was the first time this happened. He was being interviewed on TV and his toddler came through the door and he tried to push her out of frame. Don't try and do that. Acknowledge the situation, show your humanity to your child. Don't worry about it. Everybody will understand. Right, that's good. Joe, thank you for, there's a question on there saying that talking to somebody, solving problems rather than selling products help. Okay, get a pen, everybody. Name of the book again is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but the CD is the best version to get. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. How many calls do I do a day? 4.5 million. Depends on the day. You know, you've got to remember, I'm in my cruising mode. The purpose of building a forever business is to give yourself lots of time so you're not constantly working. But in order to get there, you have to work hard. So until you get to cruising mode, you need to be making contact. But that is up to you. There's no point comparing yourself with other people. But I would say making 1 contact a day is not enough. I would say what we need to be doing is engaging with people. So sending messages, maybe send a dozen a day to trigger a conversation, because that's about as many times as you could, as many conversations as you could have in a day if half of them respond to you. I'd guess about half wouldn't. But also we need to be doing some other things, and the birthday is a really good idea. So, you know, on Facebook, every morning you log in and it tells you whose birthdays it is. Well, on that day, loads of people will be wishing them happy birthday. So my tip is don't wish them a happy birthday that day. But when you log on to Facebook, somewhere in there you can find who's had birthdays yesterday. So there's a timeline of people's birthdays. So find out when their birthday, the people who had their birthday yesterday, message them today saying, oh, really sorry I missed your birthday. I hope you had the best of days. How are you getting on in this crisis? And that gives you, there's going to be a few people who have a birthday every day, and that actually manages your whole list, because everybody that you're friends with on Facebook will have a birthday within the next 12 months, which is an interesting fact I'm sure you appreciate. So it means that you can allow the birthday system to help you manage that. Okay, Daniela, I've put my business down for a little while and I'm just picking it up again now. How do I speak to prospects and customers that I've been interested in the past? Exactly the same way as I've just explained. Trigger the connection again. Wendy, do you think we can prospect even if we're not very high in the business? Of course you can, because it's not you who is the proof of forever. It's been going 40 odd years. There are hundreds, thousands of people who tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people whose lives have been completely changed by the forever opportunity. You are not the proof of it. You know, so don't worry about that. Don't think about that. And if you, there's one of my voicemails, which is on my podcast page, is about, I've got a list of about 5 voicemail messages, which are for a new distributor. And one of the questions there is the one that I answer. Feel free to check that out. All that stuff is free, by the way. So it's there for you to use. Okay, what do you do when you have invited a prospect who seemed so interested when you spoke to them after they attended the online BP or watched a 5-minute video, they don't answer your calls as messages? Move on. It's the don't stalk them thing. You know, I would message them a couple of times, message them once, what did you think? Message them a second time, did you get my message, what did you think? And if they didn't, say, look, the third message would be, I don't want to pester you. Is it that you've changed your mind? If so, could you just let me know and I'll cross you off my list? And then really, they won't let you know if they've changed their mind. They'll just let you know if they want to continue the conversation, because they might have been busy. You know, they might have had a crisis to deal with. But, you know, so handle it that way, then don't worry. Barbara Smale, interesting question. When you approach somebody who is very aware of selling and persuasion techniques, do you just get to the facts quickly? Well, if you do it right, if you have a forming conversation right, it never feels like persuasion or selling. It never feels like a technique, because it's not. It's just a way of helping you to structure a human-to-human conversation. But if you're going into it in the mindset that you are persuading somebody or selling something, then that you're going to convey that, and that's going to come across. So don't just have a conversation with anybody to see if there's a hot button that you can press. If they don't want what we are offering, if they don't want an opportunity, and there are going to be plenty of people who don't, thankfully, then, you know, if I approached the Dalai Lama as a human being, you know, potential prospect, I would hope he would say, actually, thanks, Andy, but I'm really happy with my life as it is at the moment. I'd be really shocked if he said, actually, you know, I've been thinking of going into something else. So, you know, some people are happy with their lives, and that's fine. Our job at this stage is not to prospect them. It's to discover if there's a hot button. And don't try making your one-to-ones up. Follow Diana Adams' advice. So how do you start the initial conversation about the business? Go to the one-to-one webinar, watch that. Okay, we've got this. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read a message and understand. It looks like it might be that English isn't their first language. Okay. I'm not offering a job. I'm offering an opportunity to change somebody's life. So before I can talk about forever, I need to find out how their job, their life needs changing. If you are, the message says something like, I'm contacting loads and loads of people and offering them the work, I think that's the wrong way around. I think the way I've explained is the right way around. I'm delighted to see you've decided to listen to your CD again of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I slipped that in for those people who missed it last time, because I'm still getting messages. Okay, Margaret Harrison says, if you're making the initial contact with a stranger, is it honest if you don't mention forever? How are you contacting a stranger? The whole thing that I've been talking about is about contacting people who you've already got some kind of connection with. And then it's about developing a connection with new people before you can talk to them. However, it could be that you want to run a recruitment drive. Say, for example, there are people that you know who are hairdressers and have been challenged. You could be really just open, say, we're recruiting at the moment, our online business is going from strength to strength, we're looking for a key ambitious people. If you know anybody, can you let me know? But there's no point, but you cannot start pitching to somebody before they've asked you to start pitching. Otherwise, they're just going to close down, and they're not saying no to the opportunity, they're saying no to you because of the way you've come onto them. Great. Well, Faye, I'm glad. I'm sorry that Beth keeps losing the call, but she can always listen to it on replay as well. The key thing, she was the one with the baby, the toddler, and the key thing to remember is don't worry about it. Okay, so let me see. The podcast is on my podcast page, Andy Waring, Voicemails and Podcasts. The webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to see that on Forever Knowledge, I believe. Let's see. Brian, you're a star. You're so supportive and encouraging, and it's always a pleasure when you're a trainer on a call. This final question. When it comes to recruiting, I get no's only. You need to work on your technique. You need to work on forming conversations with people. So I would say set yourself a rule for the next week of having 10 conversations a day without prospecting people. Just practice having pleasant conversations on Messenger or wherever. Because if you are only ever getting no's, it sounds to me that it's the fact that they feel you're coming on too strong. And so what we need to do is make sure that we engage and we personalize it with them. And if you can do that, then you're going to get a lot more people coming through because the part that I've been sharing with you is about getting people to a one-to-one. We know that once you do a one-to-one in the way that the professionals do that, the way that Adam and Diana show on that video, then you're going to get a certain proportion of people coming through to go to a business presentation. You also know that, sorry, I've just seen another question here, but you also know that when people go to a business presentation, a certain proportion will join the business if you've handled them in the right way, inviting them through that. And if you've done that, then you will get people joining the business because there are people who want an opportunity. Let me tell you, whatever your personal experience is, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people joining this business today because they've seen an opportunity for themselves. Our job is to find those who are looking for an opportunity. Mark Lawler, people keep telling me, his question, people keep telling me the business doesn't work. How do I respond to this?